Happy Monday, everyone. This is Martha with Nature Niche, and happy Memorial Day. This week, I want to talk to you about green dragon, Arisaema dracontium. And this post is dedicated to my friend Jeff, who thinks this plant is so cool he named his first truck after it. You'll notice that it is in the same genus as the more familiar jack-in-the-pulpit. But green dragons are really neat native perennial forb that you can find in moist forests, especially along riverbanks and river floodplains. It occurs where there are gaps in the canopy that form when trees die or are cleared. And it's in Michigan on its northern edge of its range here in Midland, occurs across the southern half of the lower peninsula, and is known generally from the eastern half of the United States. Its habitat is deciduous woodlands, river floodplain forests, any place where there are shady seeps, and woodland areas that are adjacent to springs and vernal pools. It does have a coefficient of conservatism of 8 in Michigan, 8 out of 10, so it is an indicator that the original woodland flora is still really intact. So I was very excited to find this plant along the Pine River recently after my neighbors had done some invasive species removal. I have it here planted next to the east side of my house. Gets morning sun and I have fairly moist soils. You can find this plant out in natural areas in similar places as jack-in-the-pulpit, but jack-in-the-pulpit is more common. So green dragon is a pretty special find when you do come across it. As far as horticulture goes, it prefers dappled sunlight in the spring and light shade in the summer. Moist, loamy soils with a layer of decaying leaves. It does not like to dry out at all, and it really doesn't have too many issues with disease or insect pests. So just putting it in a moist, partly shaded site is the key to growing this plant. As far as identification goes, it can get 1.5 to 2.5 feet tall. It can be very robust under ideal growing conditions. And it's composed of a single basal leaf and a single flowering stalk. So the petiole is long and stout and glabrous, meaning hairless, and glaucous, so it has a waxy coating. And can be up to 2 feet long. The leaf is compound in an arch, and it can have 5 to 13 leaflets. I think it's structurally very similar to how maidenhair fern is arranged. And though that leaf can be 2.5 feet by 2 feet in size, and the leaflets are each up to 8 inches long and up to 2.5 inches across. And the bottom two may be cleft with 2 to 3 lobes. They are entire, meaning they have a smooth margin without teeth. They're narrowly ovate, and they have the marginal vein that connects all of the lateral veins along the leaf edge, very similar to jack-in-the-pulpit. The flowering stalk is pale whitish green in color. It has no leaves. It is glabrous, again, no hair, and it terminates in a flower that consists of a spathe wrapped around the spadix. Again, very similar to the way jack-in-the-pulpit is arranged. And the spadix has the male flowers above the female flowers. Occasionally, the plant can be unisexual and may only have all female or all male flowers. The upper part of the spadix is narrow and looks like a long dragon's tongue. And this plant blooms in late spring to early summer, and those neat looking flowers last about a month. And then they're replaced by an ovoid mass of berries that change from orange to red in color. Again, looks very similar if you've ever seen mature jack-in-the-pulpit fruit. The root system consists of a corm and secondary roots, and this plant can spread vegetatively by offsets. So you see that here where I have 4 or 5 plants very close together, each with a flower. It can also reproduce by seed dispersal. As far as faunal associates go, it does attract simple flies, including fungus gnats, and the berries are eaten by wild turkeys, wood thrush, and probably other woodland bird species. Most mammals avoid the foliage and the corms because they are quite toxic, although I have observed deer occasionally browsing. I think if the deer are hungry enough, they eat just about anything. There are some small seedling-sized ones in my bed there. The foliage is toxic because of calcium oxalate, and that chemical creates a burning sensation in the mouth, as well as gastrointestinal upset, and possibly even damaging the kidneys. So it's a nice plant to have in your moist shade garden. I would try to keep this plant out of areas where you have kids playing, just to be on the safe side, and places if you have pets that like to chew on plants. I've had a Cocker Spaniel do that once or twice, so might be something better kept kind of outside of their play areas. But it is a nice species to have in your system, and I hope you get to walk in some river floodplain forest and maybe find it out in natural settings as well. Thanks, and have a good week.